Fine. Volume. Okay, hope that's good. Recording. All right, great. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm wearing my tefillin. I don't want to be on YouTube.
I get it. I get it. No problem whatsoever. Hold on. I see someone mentioned something in the Facebook Navi group. Let's see what's up. Some people don't have a link. All right, let's post this immediately.
Oh, it went up on the WhatsApp group.
Right, but I guess not everybody is on the WhatsApp group.
Makes sense.
So let's take 2 seconds and post it. Control-C. Okay. I guess I'll leave Facebook open. Okay. All right. Let's fix. Hey. Okay.
How's it going?
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah. How's packing going?
Messy. Boxes stacked.
It's the unpacking that's messy, no?
Oh, I mean, for me, it's the packing.
Okay.
Because, like, I don't know what I want to pack right away. Like, the Sfarim was the hardest because they're so heavy and you need, like, a certain size box.
Yes, I made that mistake with one of our moves of thinking, oh, I'll just shove as many books as possible in a giant bag. No.
Yeah.
Little boxes,
Yeah.
lots of little boxes. We lost 2 boxes of Sfarim because we had so many. We lost 2 boxes in the move because we had like 40 boxes of books. It was insane. And some of the books were like rare. So it was just such heartache. But I managed to find one of them and replace it. I found in a secondhand bookstore. I ended up finding one of these rare books, and I was like over the moon, thrilled that I was able to replace it because it was such an amazing book, and I couldn't believe that it was in that box with you know, with like all like really good books, like Rivka Slunim's like mikvah book, and like it was just all in there. I was so upset.
Yeah, no, I hear that. Oh my gosh. My husband also has a lot of like books that like one tiny book that's impossible to find because he can't read in Hebrew yet. He's still learning. So to get books that are really hard to find translated in English is even harder to find.
Okay.
And it's like $100 for a book that's like this tiny about some esoteric Jewish topic that I've never heard about, like, so hopefully like we don't lose any.
It sounds like he and my son Yosef Yitzchak would get along great.
Yeah.
That's all I can say, yeah. If he ever needs help in anything, like in that field.
Yeah.
And Yosef's English is fluent, and so Yosef knows about all the obscure things that exist. So like if there's an obscure translation or whatever, he'll know about it and where to get it. And
oh, that's great. They'll have to set up a Havruta together.
Seriously. Alrighty. Hey, Sapir.
Hi, how are you?
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Loved your quote in the COL article, in the Chabad online article.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I was thinking of Chumash class, you know, it's just like all the challenging that
They put
happened
a picture
there.
from our Zoom. Did you see it?
I did. How did they get it? Like, who took a screenshot?
I was wondering the same thing. Like, what is up with that? Like, no one asked us, like, anyway, yeah, it's a little shady, but whatever, it's all good. But it was just odd, like, just reading the article, like, that's a nice article, and all of a sudden, what?
Yeah, we have a spy in our midst, like, okay.
I mean, it could be they just went to YouTube and took a screenshot. Like, I don't know that it was like so sinister.
But how could they do that? Because we didn't record. You know what? I recorded one of the classes for, it was the Yud Zayin B'Tammuz class, and I recorded it because half the class couldn't come, and I did put it up on YouTube. I bet you they swiped it from there. Just like screenshot. But like, ask for God's sakes. Anyway.
That's funny. Yeah, I have no problem with it. It's just like, oh, wow. That's awesome.
Right. Alrighty. So I guess we'll start because we have so much to get through. My brain is exploding. Once again, I was just like, I had the hardest time preparing this because I'm like, there's too much stuff. There's too much stuff to do. Because you realize we never did the second half of chapter 11. We really went into the kishkis of like the first half of chapter 11, which is about Shlomo sinning and with the wives and da-da-da. And then we chose to dedicate, 2 classes to the whole King of the Demons Gemara Midrash that is there to like fill in like what's going on with Shlomo. But there's that whole other second half of chapter 11 that talks about how Hashem summons, 3 adversaries, Satanim, for Shlomo. And then chapter 12 is like a complete extension of that almost, even though it's not obvious to the naked eye. But really, how do we know that 12 is an extension of the second half of 11? Very simple. Who's the main character in chapter 11? Sorry, chapter 12, my bad. Who's the main character in chapter 12?
His son, Rehavam.
No, he's not the main character. What?
It's that guy. It's that guy from like that goes to Egypt and stuff. No.
Oh,
like random guy.
Yeravam, right? So I would say in some ways he's the main character because Rehavam is like. Maybe he's the main character. I don't think so. He seems kind of secondary. But basically, the whole story with him starts in the second half of chapter 11. That's where we're given all these little snippets, these little Instagram shots of like everything that explodes in chapter 12. Because that's the thing. We're not given any coherent, continuous piece of information. Like the second half of chapter 11 is really just little snippets, little trailers, little, there's this guy had it as there. Oh, and even with Yeravam, it jumps around. It tells us, that who his mom is, like, and that he's, the son of this widow from Tzreida and whatever. And like, okay, who cares? And like, it mentions that he tried to assassinate Shlomo, and then he flees to Egypt. And it's just this ping pong of information instead of like giving us information in an organized manner, right? It just throws all of these little snippets of information at us that honestly, according to Pshat, do not help us that much, in the sense that there's an expression in like that our sages use that I think is used even in modern Hebrew today. It's megale tefach mechase tifchaim. A tefach is a fist breadth, right? It's a way that we measure, like, you know, how tall of a lulav has to be, or we measure, right, how many tfachim, how many fists, you know, width sukkah wall has to be. How many tfachim is the minimum?
10.
Very good, thank you, Sarala. Right? So, but there's an expression that when a person, you know, through their revelation, they actually hide more than they're revealing. So you say, yeah, he revealed one fist breadth, but he ended up hiding two. Megale tefach mefach mechase tifchaim. He's really, right, like yadayim, raglayim, tifchaim, two tefachs. So basically, for every piece of information that the second half of chapter 11 gives us, we're left more baffled and perplexed, because it just seems like there's so much it's not telling us. And today we'll see that it's really the Gemara that fills in all of these blanks for us, because just the Pshat, we're left scratching our heads. Like, what is the significance of this? Like, what am I supposed to take away from this? So, and then chapter 12 is literally the culmination of all of those little Instagram shots. You know, it's like, oh, now all of the tension is hitting the fan. Now everything is like blowing up in Shlomo's legacy's face. It's not blowing up in Shlomo's face, because Shlomo's already, you know, in the tomb of his fathers, you know, chavrusing with Moshe Rabbeinu, but like Rechavam is dealing with Afrath, and suddenly we're able to see the tension that's been percolating for basically 40 years. So basically, let's just run through really quickly the like major, you know, like headings or major like junctions in the second half of chapter 11. So basically, right, we're told, oops, wrong page, that Hashem, right, like, you know, awakened, like after it tells us, you know, all of the problems with Shlomo, that he did this, and Hashem says, I'm going to rip the monarchy away from you. And then in Pasuk Yudalid, Vayakem Hashem Satan li Shlomo et Hadad Edomi. So it mentions one, the king of Edom. All right, that's kind of random. What does Edom have to do with this? You know, and then it just mentions that they have history, political history. And if you go to Shmuel Bet, you'll see that political history, right? Vayihi biot David et Edom be'alot Yoav sar hatzava. And then it hints to it. And then it just, you have all of these political alliances that were never really mentioned all of a sudden, right? Vayivrach Hadad, Edomim lavo Mitzrayim. So they're forming alliances with Egypt. That's kind of weird. Not only that, so that's one. Then there's another one, right? In Pasuk Kaf Gimel. Vayakev Elokim lo Satan et Rezon ben Eliada. Asher barach met Hadad Eser melech Tzovat. Tzovat is like, you know, a nation that's like near Turkey, like it's on the Jordanian side of the Jordan, like the Transjordan, way up north. And it's like, what would they have to do with anything? No, he's also going to be a political thorn in Shlomo's legacy side. Okay, and then there's tension with Damascus and Aram, right? Aram Damascus. And then finally in Kaf Vav, Yeravam ben Nevat Efrati min Atzreida, V'shem imo Tzruah, Isha Almana, Eved li Shlomo. Who cares? We never see this person again. Like, why are you telling us? Vayarem yad b'melech. And there's a very strange expression. He raised his hand against the king. So first of all, there's no way that he actually physically like wanted to slap Shlomo. That there's no way he could have gotten that close to him. Obviously, this is an idiom for attempted assassination. It seems like he had political power, whether it was support or whatever, that he was able to, you know, start networking, forming connections. But then what happened? Does anyone recall, like, what happened with that attempted assassination?
He gets his cloak pulled and then split into like a bunch of pieces.
Wait. So
and
that's Yeravam. That's like later. But so it tells us also in very esoteric language why he wanted to assassinate the king. We'll get to it in a sec. explaining it, but I'll just read it just to refresh, because it was so many weeks ago that we did this, that you guys looked at it. So, so this is why he wanted to assassinate him. So there was a whole moat that David had dug, or like there was a whole thing that separated, Ir David and Yerushalayim, and so basically that Shlomo had closed this gap. So the question is, what is this gap? What does it have to do with anything? Why did David fill it? Why did Shlomo fill it? Like, what is going on here? We're not told anything. Now we're told about Yeravam, Gibor Chayil. Now, Gibor Chayil is a very, very important, flattering term. Boaz is called Gibor Chayil. Only moral, righteous people are called that. So given Yeravam's behavior in chapter 12, like, we wouldn't exactly assume that he's Mr. Tzaddik here. I mean, he gets the people to do idolatry when he's called Gibor Chayil. Like, that's not just talking about his military prowess, that he's strong. It's saying that, like, there's something very good about him. Like, Eshet Chayil isn't just that she's able to, like, like carry toddlers, and I don't know, that she has some kind of, like, super strength, It's that just the moral fiber. So, okay, weird. Vayishavam Gibor Chayil, Vayar Shlomo et hanar ki yoseh melacha uvayafked oto, and he basically appoints him some kind of task over Beit Yosef, and then he leaves Jerusalem, and then it's what you're referring to, that he meets Achia Shiloni, and then Achia takes his cloak, rips it into 12 pieces, gives Yeravam 10, and then he tells him the prophecy, you will rule over 10 tribes. So Yeravam's already planning the assassination and basically coup. He's not going to assassinate the king and just leave, the seat void. He's planning on filling it. So he's planning a coup, basically, and here it seems like he's getting a divine stamp of approval. Achia Shiloni, the Tzaddik Ador, is coming and saying, I'm handing you 12 pieces of royal cloak, right? Stephanie, we had discussed this, that, right, cloak is not just a technical piece of clothing, it is the ultimate symbol of being king, akin to, the Shemin HaMishcha, the anointing oil. So that's why, like, somebody, like, either ripping or wearing the cloak, or let's say when David and Yonatan were sharing the cloak, that's like a hugely political statement. That's not friendly. Yonatan saying, oh, David, you must be cold. Here, throw this over your shoulders. This is him saying, I don't want to be king. I want you to be king. That's a huge betrayal of his father. But aside from that, that's a hugely political statement where he's saying, I am chopping the dynasty here. I don't think there should be a Saul house. I think there should be a Davidic, dynasty. So here he's ripping the cloak and saying, you get 10 of the tribes. And then what happens with the coup? Well, basically, the coup fails. Anyone know why the coup fails? So again, it was a while ago, but basically, someone leaks the information, right? Like you had, information leaks already then. Shlomo finds out somehow, whether it was from a plant that he had in Yeravam's camp, but somehow somebody leaks information to Shlomo, and then Pasuk Mem, Vayivakesh Shlomo lahamit et Yeravam. So he basically, puts wanted posters all over Israel, trying to execute Yeravam. And where does Yeravam go? Interesting. Vayivrach Mitzrayim. He also goes to Egypt. Very, very weird. Now, why is it especially weird that in Shlomo's days, Shlomo's enemies are going to Egypt for political asylum, for sanctuary?
I mean, Shlomo was married to Bat Paro, and it was like his favorite, no? Like, why is it happening that?
The king of Egypt is his shver, is his father-in-law. Like, what the heck? You're like taking in my enemies? People are trying to assassinate me? Like, you're buddy-buddy with them? The heck is up with that? I mean, the whole reason that Shlomo married Bat Paro is for the political security, to have that alliance under his belt. So what is it worth if all of a sudden everyone knows, goes like straight to go in Monopoly, like, you go to Egypt, okay, you're good. Anyway, and then Vayiba Mitzrayim, Ad Mot Shlomo, Yeravam is sitting there until Shlomo's death. he is literally sitting pretty, just, totally taken care of in Egypt. And then chapter 11 ends with the classic, template that we have for a king's career throughout all of Sefer Melachim. ויתר דברי שלמה וכל אשר עשה וחוכמתו הלא הם כתובים על ספר דברי שלמה. We're going to find that like the careers are going to be summarized in ויתר דברי fill in king X, Y, Z, right? הלא הם כתובים ספר דברי הימים למלכי יהודה or ספר דברי הימים למלכי ישראל. So you will ask, wait, what books are these and do we have them? And the answer is no. So these are the, like, like Hashverosh had Sefer Zichronot, like they had the Royal Chronicles. So yeah, Sefer Divrei Shlomo apparently was a real book, real chronicles that existed. And no, it did not withstand the test of time. We do not have this book, but boy, when it surfaces archaeologically, sign me up for a copy. Okay, V'yamim Hashem alach Shlomo, we're given the whole summary. He ruled for 40 years in Jerusalem, and then V'yishkav Shlomo im avotav, v'yikaver b'yer David, v'yimloch Rehovam bnot tachtav. And now we get to chapter 12. So before I dive in to, chapter 12, I wanted to just quickly go over your questions that you guys sent in. I'm not going to be able to get to all the questions, and I apologize in advance. Sapir and Sarplat, could you both ask the question about the significance of the 8th month and the 15th day, etc.? There is so much to say about that, specifically in Hasidus, whatever, but I don't know if we'll get to it, and I highly doubt we'll get to it because I think there's like more important things to get to. Not that that's not important, but it's so pithy. It's a topic in of itself about, the calendar and how do we count and what is the 8th month. I mean, it's gewaldig. So we shall see. But you all asked about why the switch already from Jerusalem. So that's going to be a major thing that we're going to cover, right? Who are the counselors, from his father's time, and who are these children that Rehovam is like consulting with, that are his posse? I think it was Sapir that asked, so are these like the other, no, it's Sarah. Are these the other sons of Shlomo? Because if Shlomo had 1,000 wives, think how many siblings or half siblings, Rehovam had. So that's quite a tribe right there. That's quite an entourage. So basically, and then you both were curious about what is this thing like, that Yeravam is worried. No, that Yeravam is worried about the crown going back to the house of David. Why does he switch the headquarters? And then again, what's the deal with the golden calves? Like, did we not learn a lesson from anything? Really? Do we just not learn from history? One golden calf wasn't enough. He set up 2. Wow. Okay. All right. So basically, right. Yep, exactly. Okay, so those were the questions that you guys asked. So, yeah. So basically what we see from the snippets in the second half of chapter 11 is the mounting tension about, like, as much as the glorious, construction and development was going on, but like nothing comes without a price. And so basically, you guys asked the question, like, where do the resources come from to even cover a base of English in gold and build all these temples for Bat Paro, for Shlomo, for Hashem? Like, it's not like we're sitting on oil. This isn't Israel's not the country of resources. It's not like we could just sell, like crude oil to the whole world. Like, where did this come from? And now we can finally reference, when we were doing chapter 4, we had that administrative list, that super technical list of names. And lo and behold, one of the names actually recurs here. And that is Adoniram al-Hamas, right? Adoniram is a very unfortunate character that he comes around to collect the taxes and suffers a grisly fate where he gets stoned to death by the people. It's like, I don't ever want to see you again. And that's pretty intense. So the same guy that's mentioned in chapter 4, as being in charge of collecting taxes, So notice he's the only one mentioned, right? It's because there's like, if I'm not mistaken, there was like 12 or 13 guys mentioned there. He's the only one mentioned because, again, they weren't all responsible for the same thing. So it seems like that's really the centerpiece of the tension here. And that's very much where the Gemara takes it. For anyone who is teaching Sefer Melachim, Sarle, I am looking at you. And I know that there are people who will be tuning in later, you know, Beth and Rivki, that are mamish teaching Sefer Melachim. The Gemara that Beth, you probably for sure already know, and Rivki, you have to look up, is in Sanhedrin, Daf Kuf Aleph Amud Bet, and Daf Kuf Bet. It's about, I think, 3 Amudim. Sarla, I'm pretty sure at some point you're going to teach Navi, Melachim, whatever. Just tuck it away, you know. Anyway, but basically, Sanhedrin, Kuf Aleph, and Kuf Bet, that is a whole stream of Agaritot on these chapters, specifically on the character of Yeravam ben Nevat, and like the ins and outs of this person and his function within the story. And it sheds tremendous light because there's some really perplexing statements about him, not just in the Pshat, even in Chazal, they take it to the next level. Like, for example, it starts, the whole Gemara, its springboard, is the Mishnah in Masechet Sanhedrin that says that 4 laymen, like 4 regular people, and 3 kings are deprived, like do not merit Olam Haba. They do not receive it. So wait, now we're really befuddled because Yeravam ben Nevat on the one hand seems to be, he has merit, like he has tremendous merit. He's Gibor Chayil and Achia Shiloni, you know, the Navi Hador, like the Rebbe of the generation, is like giving him God's, you know, seal of approval. And yet, like, he doesn't get Olam Haba? He's that rotten? And then, like, the Gemara asks, like, you know, in Kuf Bet, Aleph, like, why doesn't he get Olam Haba? After it goes through, like, a whole process explaining, you know, the ins and outs of the story. And then the punchline in a certain way is, and the reason he doesn't get Olam Haba is because God came to him. Doesn't say whether through a prophet or prophecy. He said to him, look, Yeravam ben Nevat, I'm going to make a deal with you. If you stop right now, if you stop your whole campaign and you walk hand in hand with the house of David, you know, if you just stop all your evil ways of like encouraging the Jewish people to do the idols, like the golden calves. I take back the word idols because they're not idols, the golden calves. Then he says, you, me, and Beit David, and Ben Yishai. He calls David the son of Jesse, Ben Yishai. He says, and you and Ben Yishai, we will all sit together in Gan Eden together. And what does Yeravam say to him? When we're all walking together, who's leading whom? Who's at the front? And God is like, what do you mean? Like Ben Yishai is. And then Yeravam's answer is, if it's like that, then I'm not interested. Peace out. I don't care. Go jump in a lake, God. And so then the whole waterfall or the whole snowball effect of, you know, deterioration. So, wow, we're like really perplexed by this Yeravam guy. So basically what the Gemara is discussing about those snippets of information that was given to us in chapter 11, in that second half, is that, so first of all, what we have to understand is this like gap, you know, that David dug out was what created easy access to Jerusalem in the hopes of making it easy access to Beit HaMikdash. And this, it all connects beautifully. The reason you guys asked, you know, so why did Yeravam create these alternative religious centers? So first of all, Sapir, I think it was you that wrote something really, really clever. What was it? Did he want to create a more attractive free counterculture to the kingdom of Judah? So, yes, the Hasidic masters point out, actually, is it them or the Gemara? Oish, I don't remember. One of them points out that basically he knew that if they get to Jerusalem, their hearts will immediately awaken and do teshuvah. And they're going to just get off this whole, you know, soapbox of like, Rechavam's a jerk, and the taxes and whatever, and that they're going to try harder to like preserve the unity and preserve the Davidic dynasty. And he said, Jerusalem is the heart of the people. It awakens the heart of the people. And so that's why I have to cut off their easy access to Jerusalem. So he sets up alternative centers to shut off their ability to do teshuvah. Because he knows that when a Jew is in tune with his soul is connected to King David, to Mashiach, not to Yeravam ben Nevat, no matter how idealistic he might be. We'll see in a second that he is idealistic. And basically saying, I really believe in what I'm doing, so I have to stop that teshuvah, because I think that in this case, the ends justify the means. So he's not just setting up, an alternative counterculture center because he's a megalomaniac stam. Like, he's not like some cult leader, that just says, I want absolute power. I want to be like their God. I want to like be in charge of their religion. He's saying that I feel like my leadership is important, and I will do anything to make sure that my leadership is preserved because I feel like it's that important for the Jewish people, which is like very weird. And yes, he really believed that the ends justified the means. So basically, the gap that David opened up was to make the Jewish people's ability to get to Beit HaMikdash easy, so that their hearts should always stay true. They should always be able to stay in that place of teshuvah, of like their heart not getting encrusted with klippas and getting distracted, with sinning. They should always stay pure. And basically, why Shlomo filled it up, it's not, God forbid, he was like trying to somehow break the connection of the Jewish people with God. I mean, we know everything Shlomo did was to facilitate, the connection with God. But what the Gemara tells us is something fascinating. The Gemara says that what he did was he shut off the easy access to Jerusalem so that he could set up toll booths, because he used the tolls as taxes in order to build, to sustain the luxury needs of Bat Paro. Because after he had spent the whole national budget on, the Beit HaMikdash and everything, he's like, shoot, my wife is like used to original Louis Vuittons. I can't buy her knockoffs. She will take one look a mile away and she'll be like, no, Daddy used to buy me the original thing. He even used to fly to Milan or to Paris to get me the real thing. No. And so basically he's like, shoot, I don't have the budget left to treat my woman in style. What am I going to do? So he sets up these toll booths as a way to, squeeze a little more tax money out of the taxpayer. Stephanie, smart man. Well, sort of. I mean, I guess we could understand, because it's true. You can't just, tell your wife, who is literally raised in the lap of luxury, deal with it, honey. Like, we just built Yudke Vavke at Temple, but cringe a little, so basically, when Yeravam saw that, I mean, first of all, the people were like creaking under the brunt of the taxes already, but you see here how it's like, it started off a snowball. It started off its own chain reaction, because when you shut the Jewish people's access off to the very thing that makes them good, which is the ability to come to Beit HaMikdash, to have that like umbilical cord to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot. So yeah, we could understand why he did it, but like he basically, that was the beginning of the end. You could say marrying Bat Paro was the beginning of the end, and there are sages that say that, definitely. But we can also understand why David possibly set up that shidduch anyway. So basically what we have here is that when Yeravam sees this, he's like, okay, that's it. This is ridiculous. I mean, this guy is ruthless. So this, according to the Gemara, is why he starts organizing the coup. That he has very idealistic people behind him saying, something is rotten in Jerusalem. Something is really, really messed up. Few points, if you guys know what I was just referencing. But anyway, no Shakespeare buffs? All right. Anyway, so basically, he starts mobilizing this coup. And this is another reason why I did encourage you guys to see at least part of the K-drama way the heck back when. Because one of the things I never understood until I saw, Moon Embracing the Sun, that K-drama, was Sapir from, actually, no, I think the quote is a little bit rotten in a country, and I don't want to say where, because as soon as I say it, it's going to like totally divulge what play I am referencing from Shakespeare. Unless I'm totally misquoting it, in which case, fadicha for me, like a fadicha is like an embarrassing thing. Anyway, so yeah. So basically, one of the things that the K-drama helped me understand that I never understood is the dynamic between the different advisors. Because for whatever reason, in my very naive way of reading the Tanakh until that point, I just assumed, erroneously, that the righteous kings really had like a solid cabinet behind them. Because when you think of Chizkiyahu Melech, that we'll get to, right? You know, in a while. His cabinet included Yeshayahu Navi and like other Nevi'im that are just like tzaddikim that it's inconceivable to even imagine what spiritual greatness that was. Yeshayahu would like literally got one of the highest Merkava prophecies. And like, so how could he have Shmos as part of his cabinet along with Yeshayahu ben Amos? Like, so I just always imagined a certain homogeny among the cabinet, and nothing could be further from the truth. That's when I was reading Yirmiyahu for a very long time. I was perplexed. I didn't understand how you could have such inner squabbling. So I couldn't really envision it in a 3D manner in my head about the inner power struggles and the whole dynamic between the different factions in the palace. Because I don't know, I just had it a certain way in my head. And then when I saw throughout the development of the K-drama, where it illustrated so clearly the different groups and the way the advisors, you know, had natural alliances or the way they set up alliances. And then all of a sudden you transpose that onto the Tanakh stories. It works incredibly. That yes, of course, not everyone's going to agree with Shlomo's policy or anybody's policy for that matter. And so everybody, because you are part cabinet minister in the inner circle, you are most definitely going to try to get a majority in order that at the next like important meeting, you could either have enough power to veto or whatever it is. And so Bekitzer, that was just a really, really, like it was illustrated so beautifully that it wasn't black and white. It's not like the cabinet ministers were like obvious. It was really like there's a certain appearance that they all have, you know, of loyalty to the king. You really don't know who's the backstabber. And the way they manipulate their connections in order to make their agenda proceed, and whatever it takes. So basically what you have, you know, in a very, very like terse manner is that mobilization occurring where Yeravam, who again is a certain man of standing, whether it's his charisma, you know, but whatever it is, he's able to mobilize and get a significant amount of support. And the other part of the reason that he's able to mobilize support is the fact that what tribe is he from? If he's Ephrati. So Ephrati doesn't always mean from this tribe, but most of the time it does.
Ephraim?
Yefeh, exactly. Usually it means Ephraim, but not always. Because with Elkanah, for example, in chapter 1 of Shmuel Aleph, Elkanah is called Ephrati, and Elkanah is a Mishevet Levi. But because, if I'm not mistaken, because he's living in Shevet Ephraim, so, but also Ephrati is often a euphemism for someone great, like a person of leadership. So now Ephraim, what is Ephraim's significance? Like, first of all, what tribe? I mean, one of Jacob's sons is not Ephraim. So Ephraim is from, which tribe does he represent?
Yosef, along with Menashe.
Exactly. Now, who's the Bechor? Who literally holds the dominance representing Yosef? Remember in Parashat Vayechi, right? Yaakov makes Yosef cringe to the nth degree because he literally just opens up that karma that Yosef had to suffer through of the younger child being preferred over the natural firstborn. And then Yaakov says to
right?
Yosef,
Menashe is the youngest?
no, Menashe is the firstborn that he was supposed to get Yaakov's right hand on his head, and Ephraim is supposed to get the left hand, and then Yaakov goes like this, and Yosef goes, Dad! And he grabs his hands and he tries to pull them apart, and Yaakov says to him, Yadati b'ni, yadati, I know my son, I know exactly what you're thinking. Don't worry, this is different. And for the record, ladies, this is actually why we bless our sons to be like Ephraim and Menashe. We don't bless our children to be like Moshe and Aaron. We don't bless our sons to be like any other like group of tzaddikim. We bless our children to be like Ephraim and Menashe, even though we barely know anything about them. Honestly, like as characters in Pshat, they're so secondary. We know nothing almost about them. And yet to this day, for thousands of years, we've been blessing our children to be like Ephraim and Menashe. The answer why this is, they are the first humans to conquer the natural homicidal tendency that is spawned by sibling jealousy. Since Cain and Abel, no other human was able to overcome that, where the younger was like selected and the older one rejected, and it always set off some kind of attempted murder spree, whether it was Yishmael, and Yitzchak. But either way, Ephraim and Menashe, the first time in human history where they're able to achieve ahavat chinam, where they're able to achieve true brotherly love, where Menashe sees Ephraim being selected and he doesn't bat an eyelash. And he's like, high five, little bro, I'm so proud of you, awesome. And he's not like, hey, that's not fair, why him, why not me? He's like, okay, that's cool, I support him. And he did. That's the beauty of it. We never hear about animosity. Well, except in Sefer Shoftim, but that's like a lot later. And that's like on a tribal level, that's something else. But basically, it's the craziest thing. They're the first to achieve that. So we bless our children more than being a tzaddik, more than being brilliant, more than being anything else. Be a mensch! Don't try to kill your brother because you're jealous because he got a bigger piece of chocolate cake than you on Shabbos. I need to tell my boys this every single week. Emma, we're gonna kill him! Put the fleshik knife down right now! Actually, the worst is they usually take the milchik one and I have to scream, not with my milchik knife! Anyone's been to ours for Shabbos has literally heard me scream that, put the milchik knife down immediately. But anyway, so yeah. So basically, Ephraim and Menashe, so Ephraim is the Bechor, meaning legally, not chronologically. So anybody from the tribe of Ephraim is basically a real contender for monarchy. Because we know that Yosef and Yehuda have this rivalry that when one drops the ball, the other has the power to pick it up. Right? They are the two Bechorim. One is the, again, legal Bechor, the like political Bechor of Yaakov, meaning Reuven was supposed to be the chronological / political Bechor, and he messed up when he did the whole fiasco with Bilhah. And then Yosef, but again, Yehuda is from the headwife, from Leah, and Yosef is the Bechor from the other headwife, Rachel. And so basically, but even spiritually, that is their potential. And so that's why the final vision, that Yechezkel talks with the third Beit HaMikdash, is the two of them ruling together as like one entity. So basically, anybody from the tribe of Yosef, the Bechor from Yosef, is the only real threat to the Davidic dynasty. No other tribe has a snowball's chance in heck of like assuming the throne because they don't have that standing. So when we're told that Yeravam is from Ephraim, okay, that already explains a lot of his charisma and like a lot of his magnetism politically. So basically, what we see is that he wants to lead this coup. Somehow it leaks, and again, Sapir, sorry, I missed. What tribe is David from? David is from Yehuda. Again, that just, makes sense. The two tribes that are always nemesis to each other until Bezrat Hashem, they rule hand in hand instead of head to head, right? They're supposed to rule like this. Thank you, Sarala. So basically, he, mobilizes, but then again, as with every, committee or group, or the famous joke, right? 2 Jews, 5 opinions, right? So can you imagine, and like you have a whole cabinet of ministers, how many different factions like that broke up into? So basically, somebody leaks it to Shlomo. Now, the perplexing thing, why on earth does Yeravam flee to Shlomo's father-in-law? Is it Shlomo's father-in-law? That's the question. Either way, we know he flees to Egypt and he gets asylum there. But the question is, what's going on? Why would Egypt give him asylum? Anyone want to take a stab at it?
I mean, my guess would be if you're saying that it's not his father-in-law, then it's someone who's also trying to overthrow the whole thing. So they're like, okay, so my enemy is my friend. Like my enemy's enemy is my friend.
Exactly. My enemy's enemy is my friend. Exactly. Right. The exact opposite of what Abraham Lincoln said, right, is that I destroy my enemy when I make him my friend. But anyway. So, Sapir, that's what you wanted to say?
Sort of. I was gonna say maybe he married off his daughter to Shlomo like kind of like begrudgingly. So like really he wasn't on his side, but I don't know how that makes sense. I'm not
It's
sure.
a little bit of a weak statement, a little bit weak.
Yeah.
But anyway, but Sarah Plutkin really hit it out of the ballpark. Exactly. Paro was not a young man. Shlomo's been ruling for several decades already. So yeah, there's no way that it's the same Paro. And a new pharaoh arose who did not know Shlomo. It's a new regime. There's even a discussion about like what's going on politically in Egypt. Do we know who this Shishak is? And we do. Again, without geeking out on you, Egyptologically, it's amazing about what's going on in Egypt politically that it makes sense. We do know who this pharaoh is, that he left tons of archaeological data. So basically there is a change in regime here that, yeah, exactly. He's letting in Shlomo's, enemies saying, all right, this alliance, I don't like this alliance. And so, yeah, we're going to do away with it. And what we're going to see soon is that basically this pharaoh is going to invade Jerusalem in just a chapter or two. If I'm not mistaken, in chapter 14, he literally invades Israel. Like, so wow, that's just crazy. Okay, so backing up a bit. So Yeravam flees there and gets total political asylum. Yeah, he's safe there because he has an ally in Shlomo's other enemy. Okay, so then what is the deal with Yeravam in our chapter? Hold on, I'm just trying to think if I omitted something because I wanted to tackle some of the questions you guys asked. Hold on. Yes, yes, okay. Right? Okay, good. Okay. So basically, we pick up Shlomo dies, which is exactly what Yeravam was waiting for. He was waiting for Shlomo to die. And then Rehovam, right, assumes the throne, but he doesn't just assume the throne. One of the fascinating things about the Jewish concept of monarchy and dynasty, it's so different than every other culture that ever was on the planet. Where we know like our sages say, Ein melech belo am, that our king cannot rule without the support of his nation. But this is so literally taken seriously, halachically, by like the Jewish kings, where if a king rules, even though his father was a king, it doesn't matter. He has to go and request the support of the people. He can't just be a dictator, a tyrant, say, my dad was a king, I'm seizing the throne. And so that is why Rehovam leaves Jerusalem, which on a certain level is stupid. Where does he go? First pasuk of chapter 12.
Shechem.
Exactly. Do we know anything about Shechem? What does it tell us that he goes dafka to Shechem? What do we know about this city?
Yosef is buried there.
Okay. So first of all, this is the capital city of Yosef. Very good. So basically, who is he going to win, to sweep the vote? Right? So, like his Florida or his Ohio. Like, so when he wants the support of all the tribes, so notice he goes to Yosef. He goes to Yosef's capital city, Shechem, in order to gauge whether he has the support of the people. That is where he asks, do you accept me to be your king? Now, on a political level, why is it stupid that he's doing that? Why should he really like remain in Jerusalem in order to receive the support of the people?
To show that he's there for his people and not going to random cities trying to get, you know, the favor of others.
Exactly. It shows tremendous weakness when he has to leave his bastion of, you know, royalty, and he has to go around campaigning, right? You only go campaigning if you know that your chances are not that great. You campaign very aggressively, right? You get like Beyonce to like, you know, sing, and you do whatever it takes, you know, to get the support from all the different, you know, contingencies. And so if he would sit in Jerusalem, and then he would demand that the people come to and say, oh, your highness, would you please roll over this? That's a sign that he is secure in his monarchy. That's what David did. David did not go campaigning. He sat in Hebron, and then all of a sudden, the 11 tribes, you know, sent representation. They came to Hebron. They're like, your high, David, will you please rule over us? You just spent 7 years ruling over only tribe of Judah. Will you please rule over us too? That's a sign of power. And I don't mean like tyrannical power. I mean like secure, healthy power. Oh, why are you here, Dovi? Hi. What is it, the hoof?
No, אבל מה קורה תנור?
שניצל דג טעים. אז תאכלו, לכו לאכול. לסגור את הדלת. מה?
אני יכול לבדוק לו איפה הוא מספנה?
יוסף לא ענה, בוא אני אראה לך. לא, זה נשי חב"ד, זה נשי חב"ד רמות, זה לא יוסף.
ליאנה!
קישטה!
מה אתה יכול להופיע?
אז שב בשקט, ואל תפריע.
תפלוט קינה.
על זה אתה עף מפה.
מי זה
על זה אתה עף מפה.
מי זה תפלוט קינה?
לך. בעיה!
Hey, I feel honored.
He calls you Sarah Flotkin because like he just assumes it's a fae. I don't know why he assumes it's a fae. Anyway, okay. Where was I? Train of thought demolished. Hold on. David, Hebron. Okay, security. Okay. So basically, David has the people come to him, and Rehoboam knows that he can't do that because he knows he's sitting on a ticking time bomb. He knows after Shlomo's reign, you know, of terror on a certain level, he knows that it's a bit of a ticking time bomb, and he's really not sure which way to go, because if he shows weakness, then he doesn't know which way that's going to go. I mean, he could show vulnerability and he could win the favor of the people, or they might just walk all over him and he really doesn't know what to do. So that's part of the tension that he's got. He's saying, what campaigning tactic should I use? What's going to work the best to sort of iron out all this tension that's been mounting? And then there's the other angle, and Sapir, also, I think it was you that asked about what's the deal? Does he not have free will? Because it just basically says like that Hashem made him choose the bad advice because he had to fulfill the prophecy of Achia Shiloni, and even earlier to Shlomo saying, you know, because you messed up, I'm taking the monarchy away from you. So it's we had discussed this previously, I think, that political leaders do not have 100% free will. Sapir, you have more free will than any political leader on the planet. Certainly more than Trump, certainly more than like Justin Trudeau, like, you know, because basically when a political leader is responsible for millions of lives, he cannot have 100% free will. That's irresponsible on God's part, and God knows that. So that's why there's an expression that says the hearts of kings are in the palm of God. That he has free will to a certain extent, but that he cannot allow him to decide the fate of 330 million people, just no. So there's a certain element of free will that all political leaders lack. And so this is exactly where Yeravam fits in that paradox, because he's responsible for the whole nation, sorry, not Yeravam, Rehoboam, that he does not have 100% free will, which is why God comes in and says, okay, now you're going to take the bad advice, right? From those spoiled, you know, little guys. So I don't think it's his brothers, those children, and they're not actually chronologically children. It's, Yirmiyahu's way of mocking their maturity or their intelligence. Like, these are just spoiled brats that grew up in the palace with him, and they just want to continue, like, whatever, going to, like, to Spain for the weekend or whatever, like, just literally, living it up and maintaining their cushy lifestyle that they frankly were used to for a very long time. And so that's why he does lack free will, because he's a king. He's a public figure, and so he has public levels of free will. So basically, Rehoboam goes to Shechem. Now, when I asked you guys what the Shechem tell us, and Sarah, you mentioned, that Shechem is where Yosef is buried. What else do we know about Shechem? Shechem is actually a super important city that many things happened there. There's an obvious one that you guys are not thinking of.
Are
Is that
we
where
going
Jacob's
back to
dream
Shimon and
happened?
Levi?
Hey, one person at a time.
Oh,
Who's going first?
You go first.
we're talking about Shechem, the city of Shechem.
Yeah.
Are we going all the way back to Shimon and Levi?
Yes, we are indeed. Again, it's not us, it's the Rebbe.
Okay.
But the Rebbe in Rashi Sicha on Rechavam goes back there. Okay, but again, why did Shimon and Levi do what they did? Because they're only literally the afterthought in the story. What's the original story?
That Shechem raped Dinah.
Yes, Shechem was a person that his father Hamor built the city, and he named, the city after his son, right? So Shechem started off as a person that sees Dinah, right, and raped her. And then Shimon and Levi go on their rampage to, right, I've taught you guys this slang before, dir balak, right? Like, don't you dare, wagging their finger at every Gentile that dares to take a look at a Jewish girl, saying, we're going to do this to you. We're going to slaughter y'all, so don't mess with our women. Okay, so exactly, Shechem is where the rape of Dinah happened. Okay, what else?
I'm not sure if I'm misremembering, but was that where Jacob's dream happened?
No.
No?
A good guess. I mean, he might, no, I don't remember him having a dream there. He had one in Bethel, but that was when he was, the one with the ladder, that's when he was fleeing Esav, the first time he went to Chutz La'aretz. So, Sapir, we didn't get to this part in the Joseph story, but Shechem is identified with Joseph very, very, it's not just his final resting place, it's actually on a certain level, it's his final resting place because it's literally the place where all of his troubles started. Because that is the place that he leaves right before his brothers sell him. His brothers are sitting plotting, and it mentions that he leaves Shechem, or that he gets to Shechem, and his brothers are already sitting there, that's it. We're offing this beep, beepity, 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 beep, once and for all. This guy is such a jerk. He's even a Russia, and we can even prove, I mean, the Midrash tells us that they convened a Sanhedrin, and they tried him, they put him on trial, al pi halacha, and said he literally is deserving of capital punishment. We literally deserve to kill him because he committed, whatever crimes they accused him of. And so that's, according to some of the Midrashim, why they killed him, or attempted to anyway, right? So basically, on the words, Vayavo Shechema, right? That basically, Yaakov tells Yosef, Lechna re'e et shlom achecha ve'et shlom atzon v'hashiveni davar v'yeshalchuhu me'emek Chevron v'yavo Shechema. So he gets to Shechem, and then from there he continues on to Dotan. Dotan is the place where they actually seize him and where he finds his brothers. But Shechem is mentioned, even though nothing really happens there. And Rashi says the following, and this is what is the Rebbe's like launching pad for a huge, huge Rashi Sicha that is incredible. I'm just going to read the Rashi to you, and I'm going to just zip through the Rebbe Sicha. And if anybody wants it, just, shoot me an email. I'll scan and send it. But yeah, so very short Rashi that is so.
Hey, like, sorry, which is it, like in Lakoti Sicha, the Sicha?
So again, I'm always working off of the Perush Harabi al Rashi, like that 5-volume set.
Oh, okay.
So you know what? I could look it up because what Rav Friedman did is at the back. He like tells you exactly where everything is from. So I could always look it up. But it's just beautiful the way he organized it. You know, Perek Pasuk, Perek Pasuk, Perek Pasuk.
Yeah.
Like literally going through 20 some odd years of, you know, Shalosh Shudas Rebbe Sichas and just like organizing it Perek Pasuk. So what? Anyway, so the Rashi is like super, super dense, which is when I taught in my note, I literally made my noters like first look up every single source that Rashi's referencing before I even let them do Rashi and then the Rebbe Sicha on it. Like they had to be holding, like to double click on every hyperlink, read the entire website, and only then, like, but then they flew through the Rebbe Rashi Sicha because they knew everything the Rebbe was referring to, because they'd already done the legwork over the course of like 4 hours of yeshiva too before that. So it's definitely worth the elbow grease and like, you know, the blood, sweat, and tears, because then they were able to just fly through the Sicha. Basically, Rashi's like this. Makom muchan lepuranut. That Shechem, this place, is a place that karmically is ready for comeuppance, for retribution, for punishment. Okay? Sham kilkelu ashvatim. There, the tribes messed up. What does it mean, Sapir? Sham kilkelu ashvatim. This should be fresh in your mind. Lekalkel means what? Not with kaf, with kuf. Not economy.
Like from like spoiling or like doing something really bad.
Exactly. High five. Don't leave me hanging. All right. So exactly, right? The opposite of letaken is lekalkel. Sham kilkelu ashvatim. There, the tribes messed up. How did they mess up? That's where they started the whole horrible sinat chinam with Yosef. Sham inu et Dina. There, the terrible thing with Dina happened, the rape of Dina. Sham nechleka malchut Beit David, shene'emar vayelech rechovam Shechema. And that's how the Rashi ends. Rashi just cites those 3 things, saying that, you know, this place, anytime something happens in Shechem, it either causes, well, here Rashi emphasizes the civil war or the terrible things that happened to Bnei Israel. And the Rebbe says, what's up with that? The Rebbe says, you know what, so many good things happened in Shechem too. First of all, Yoshua bin Nun is buried there. So many good things happened also. So why is Rashi emphasizing the fact that Makom Muchal Lepuranut, this place is ready to unleash terrible civil war and strife on the Jewish people? So basically, Rashi's quoting to say, like, as soon as Yosef's innocently walking there, just know bad stuff is going to go down. So where the Rebbe takes it after a whole beautiful, you know, process of peeling apart the layers of Rashi, he says that it's not that Shechem is a bad place, but that things specifically related to the Yosef Yehuda tension occur here, and that this is a place that has come to fix the karma between them. What the Rebbe specifically points out, and he like basically says, why does Rashi give 3 examples? And just because Sapir just sat through a whole summer session semester of Yosef Tzaddik, I'm going to pick on you and ask you to, like, you know, fill in the blanks here. What are the 3 sins that Yosef accused all the brothers of, that this is the evil speech that, you know, they hated him for? Right? He accused them, according to Rabbi Yehuda Bar Simon, he accused them of 3 things, right? We said Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Nehemiah, and no, Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda, they each gave 3 different accusations. Rabbi Yehuda Bar Simon says, no, he accused them of all 3 things, and those are.
They were flirting with the goy women in like the shuk. They were eating meat by like ripping limbs from limbs, like without shechting them first.
Excellent.
And then they were calling their other brothers who were from like the maidservants, like, you know, offspring, they were calling them slaves, like kind of like looking down on them.
Excellent. Exactly. And so and then Rabbi Yehuda Bar Simon says that he was literally, and it wasn't even accurate. This was slander. He was just like suspicious of them, but he was like running to Daddy saying, Daddy, do you know what they did? and making the brothers look bad in their father's eyes. And so basically, he says that he was punished for all three. And the Rebbe says this is why Rashi quotes these three examples. The three things that happened that hurt specifically Yosef or Yehuda in this city were literally the karmic circle that Yosef opened up way back when, right? The Rebbe says that's why, why did the brothers sell him or try to kill him there? So anyone can find the parallels? Sapir, do you hear the parallels? So basically we had said when we did the Midrash in Yeshiva 2 that basically it was slander, and that Hashem says to Yosef, you will see even in their darkest hour, in their worst, most, morally corrupt time, they're not going to do any of these sins. And what was the thing that when they sell Yosef, they sit down and make a barbecue, and that they first slaughter the goat, and then they barbecue it and eat it. They have a meal, and then they happen to recall, oh yeah, let's dip his shirt in the blood, the shreds of his shirt, and show daddy, oh no, a wolf ate him. Oops. So basically, the Rebbe says, Sham kilkelu shvatim, that this, v'zeh haya hachana lepuranut ve'onesh al she'amar alechav shayu ochlim ever min achai. That they ripped him to pieces, right? So he said, Ever min achai, and this is the place where they don't do Ever min achai. So he was punished there for that slander. Then the Rebbe says somehow, it's not exactly clear what the connection is, but he says the whole story of Dinah is somehow karmically connected to the fact that he was accusing the brothers of flirting with the non-Jewish women. And Sapir, do you remember what was Yosef's punishment for telling Yaakov that, oh, I saw Reuven and Shimon and Levi flirting with the Canaanite girls, by the well or in the shuk? What was his punishment?
Potiphar's wife.
Exactly.
With him.
Really, Yosef? Let me see what happens when an absolutely drop-dead, gorgeous Egyptian woman offers you everything, offers you her body, won't take no for an answer. Let's see how well you're going to stand up to that kind of sexual harassment. And basically, right, Rabbi Bar Simon says this was literally measure for Yosef slandering his brothers, saying that they're flirting and getting it on with the Canaanite girls. And so somehow Dinah that's how it connected to Yosef. And then finally, the Rebbe says, Sham nechleku malchut Beit David, Sarah Plakin, but he ends up marrying Dinah's daughter in Egypt. That might be the missing puzzle piece. Oh, yes. Okay, does everybody know what Sarah's talking about? Okay, oh my God, super worthy tangent. I apologize for going way the heck over time, but bear with me for 2 seconds. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, Yosef marries an anonymous character. I mean, she has a name, but we don't know anything about her, named Osnat bat Potifera. And the Midrash tells us tons about her, saying Osnat was basically that Dinah got pregnant from one of her intimate moments with Shem, because we know that there was more than one. That's something that the Pshat hints to, and the Midrash has fun elaborating on. Thank you very much. And basically, she gets pregnant, and Shimon and Levi are so mortified that this mutt child, who has a goyish dad and such an ignoble background and conception, is part of Jacob's family, that they convinced Dinah to give her up for adoption. They're like, we don't want this child staining our reputation. Now, there's a beautiful midrash that says that before Jacob allows this child to be given up for adoption, this baby, he gives her he puts a gold amulet around her neck, that the amulet has Shem Hashem on it. So she's this little baby in a basket, the whole cliche, the whole 9 yards, with this little golden necklace that has Shem Hashem on it. And then she's somehow taken down to Egypt, and she's adopted by Eshet Potiphar and his wife, because according to different sources, Potiphar was Paro's eunuch, which means that he could be in a romantic relationship, but he could not procreate, right, because he's castrated. So basically, Eshet Potiphar wants a child, and so they find this beautiful baby girl, and they adopt her, and they raise her. And so our sages say that's who Osnat is, that Yosef ends up marrying Osnat. Now again, the sages have multiple dilemmas that they're trying to resolve here. They can't understand how Yosef HaTzadik could marry just some Egyptian girl. Not only that, it tells us that Potiphar is a Kohen, a high priest in an idolatrous temple. It says Kohen On. He's literally the high priest for Avodah Zarah. How can Yosef HaTzadik marry his daughter? That doesn't make any sense. So our sages are like, no, it's fine. She's Jewish. My goodness, Dina's her mother. It's okay. And I'm not even going to take the time, even though I'm dying to. The midrash about how they meet is so beautiful. You could just like cry. You could bawl your eyes out just reading that midrash about how did that shidduch happen. Anyway, so the point is, yeah, Sarah, I think that was literally, what? Your parents are literally Yosef and Osnat? Die. Oh my God.
I'd love to hear the story, and maybe next time, but or
Okay.
maybe like
afterwards. Afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay, so in a nutshell, basically, just to get closure, basically, this is the place where the tribes are split, where Yosef and Yehuda are going head to head. Yosef already opened this karmic circle. Rebbe says, because he said Yehuda and all the brothers are calling their brothers slaves, therefore Yosef is sold as a slave. But what happens? Obviously, like there's something, I mean, it was Yehuda's idea, right? Now Yehuda was supposed to protect Joseph, but because Yehuda suggested, well, let's not kill him. Let's just sell him as a slave. That karmically gave Yosef power to come back and take power from the descendant of Judah. And now Rehoboam is a slave to Yeravam, right? So there's this pendulum swing of power basically between the brothers going back and forth until they find the perfect balance of working hand in hand instead of constantly butting heads and vying for dominance. And there is so much more to say about this, but I want to end off with the following point. And that is this mysterious character of Achia Shiloni, right? He's going to appear again in the next chapter in a really trippy story. But he's the one who seems to give Yeravam the big push forward for his entire career. Like to secede from, like to split the Jewish people, to secede from the house of David. And what's interesting is that he seems to be the harbinger of like separation. If it weren't for Achia, who knows if we would have split into the kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of Judah. Maybe there wouldn't have been a civil war that we're also going to get to. There's more than one civil war that we went through, all because of Achia. So the interesting thing, anyone know where he figures again in Jewish history? We're not done with him. Thousands of years later, he appears. Sarli or Sterna Bloomis, you going to help me out here? Oh, I see Sterna's not on anymore. Okay.
Sorry, could you repeat what you said?
So Achia Shiloni, even though we only know about him from the Pshat in these stories, that he's the one that splits, right, Judah and the 10 tribes, and he creates the 2 kingdoms by encouraging Yeravam to grab the 10 tribes and to secede and to start his own kingdom. But he's actually pivotal in Jewish history for reunifying all the tribes thousands of years later. Do we know where else Achia Shiloni figures in?
Yeah, he was the Baal Shem Tov's teacher.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
That Chassidus tells us that where did the Baal Shem Tov learn all of these revelations of Chassidus? Achia Shiloni, no more and no less, came back and sat there teaching the Baal Shem Tov everything. So what, again, true, not, that's irrelevant. The idea behind this Chassidic concept that Achia Shiloni Dafka is the one to sit and prepare the Baal Shem Tov, because it's the Baal Shem Tov that is meant to reunify all the different tribes. So it's true that we're going through the civil war of Misnagdim and Hasidim first, but ultimately we're getting back to that place of everyone waiting for Mashiach ben David, make no mistake, but again, not from a place of we don't have an alternative. We are choosing him as a unified 12 tribes. So that's like Achia Shiloni's ultimate tikkun, is to train the leader that's going to train all the leaders for all time. They're going to unify the Jewish people, how to actually do that. So anyway, wow. Didn't get through everything I wanted to, but I told you from the get-go, it's going to be a mega challenge because there's just so much more. If anyone wants to read, I could send you the link, because I'm pretty sure Sanhedrin is translated in that website. You guys can read through the Midrashim on what makes Yeravam tick. Can send me questions if you want. I'd be happy to bring, through email with you guys. But anyway, She'll see you in Mirza Hashem next Tuesday. May we not need to fast tomorrow. If God forbid we do, have an easy, effective fast. And I'll see you guys. Take care.
Thank you so much.